Welcome to Tea Time with Dakota. Today we're having Throat Coat by Traditional Medicinals. It's great if you're a singer. You probably know about it if you're a singer or a musician. It's got slippery elm bark and licorice root. Really helps coat those vocal cords. I'm here with Michael and Ben Ford of Airpark.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys just got off of a tour with St. Lucia, 3-week tour. How was that for you? Was this was kind of your first tour as Airpark, yeah?
I feel like it was the first extended tour. We've been good about trying to do longer weekend runs, kind of like the Wednesday through Sunday thing, Thursday through Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the first 3-week. I think it's the longest we've done, is what I would say.
Yeah, it is the longest.
We've done tours before, but we left on Cinco de Mayo and then got back.
The 26th, so it was about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It was great. It was
awesome.
Honestly, we've both been touring for probably in different bands, for the last 10 years, and it's definitely the best tour I've ever been on.
Really?
Out of any tour I've ever been on. Yeah, it was just, the rooms are beautiful. St. Lucia, it's so amazing. It's such a great band and great people, and it was just kind of the whole time I was just pinching myself, am I dreaming right now? Is this actually?
That's awesome.
It was really great.
Were you just
as good as it could be.
wired after every show, so excited?
Totally. Yeah, which was good because we were doing a lot of driving. So it definitely helped. Yeah.
I feel like that's probably why I've struggled a little bit with insomnia on the road. That's always a bit of a trick bag, and trying to figure out how to where best to stay, but also how to best fall asleep after you just played this really loud show, and so there's lights, and
you've met people, had conversations,
and you go back to this dark, quiet hotel room, and then the idea of trying to fall asleep, it's just wide awake right now. It's a lot of energy to.
And it also sort of those moments after a show, especially on a good tour like that, represent some validation and reward for all the work you've been putting in.
Totally.
So it's kind of we did it. We finally did it. Now we have to go to sleep? What?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems anticlimactic.
Yeah.
The idea of sleeping.
Yeah.
And not to go off on that tangent too far, but
no, go.
I do recommend, we travel with a box fan.
Literally. In the hotel room for the noise.
And white noise, and there's apps and everything, but
I do the noise app, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
You gotta do the analog.
I'm glad you're with me on that.
Ooh, I'm so with you on the fan, Michael.
People make fun of me for it. I'm no, I'm bringing this fan in. We're doing this.
I'm a believer now. We used to all kind of give Michael some crap about, because we'd roll into these hotel lobbies at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we'd each have 2 bags apiece and a guitar and a box fan. Yeah. So we're looking for that box fan sponsorship.
Yeah.
You heard it
here.
You're
paying attention.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So.
You got an eyelash here, man.
Oh, help me.
You got it. No, you got it.
I got it?
Isn't that sweet?
I just want him to know.
What's it like being in a band with your brother?
It's great. I love it. Yeah. It's truly.
Speak for yourself.
We just speak really straight with each other.
Yeah.
In a calm way. I feel like we just got all our fighting and arguing out when we were younger.
Yeah.
So now it's just 2 old guys kind of bickering. I feel like when there's mutual respect and both people have the same end goal in mind, then it's easy to be, to not take things personally. So
absolutely.
I really cherish that about that.
And I think it's nice too, because you're putting yourself in such non-traditional situations to have family, and to feel that totally. Sense of you're rooted somewhere.
Yep.
To have, I cannot imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
My brother does not do music.
Yeah.
But it would probably be really cool to have someone that knows all your stories, knows everything about where you come from.
You've experienced life together from in infancy all the way up until now, so you can
that's
relate
nice.
on that level.
Yeah.
Everywhere, which is it's great.
It is.
Don't take it for granted at all.
So when I first moved to Nashville 6 years ago, Apache Relay was doing some stuff.
Yeah.
And I was always keeping up with Apache Relay.
That's cool.
Oh,
and they had a song, and this was one of their other bands. And they had a song in a major motion picture. And I remember having a phone, because I knew about you guys through Houston. And I remember having a conversation with my dad on the phone, Dad, and I know this band through a friend that they have a song on a movie, and this is Nashville, and this is how this happens. And I was so excited. So I guess the question there is you had that project, and you've mentioned that you've played in several other projects since. what has the transition been like to creating and developing Airpark? And has it sort of felt like, you know, trying on someone else's clothes at first? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that was maybe a little
honestly,
bit.
Honestly, it felt like putting on my actual clothes.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
It's
great.
like for the first time, like, put on
Well,
something
like,
fit just right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's been really great. I mean, you know, when Apache Relay ended, Michael and I didn't have any like preconceived notions or thoughts about what music moving forward would be like or look like. Yeah, I mean, basically, we just took a full year just to write and see what came out, and then kind of at the end of the year, we sat down and like listened through everything we had done, and there was definitely like some themes stylistically that had revealed themselves, and we kind of picked a collection of songs that we felt the best about, and that was what our first EP ended up being, Early Works Volume 1.
Being in that band and you know, was basically, that band started when I was like 20 years old, and it went to when I was like 27, and definitely had some amazing opportunities in that band. I like learned a ton, and kind of like piggybacking off what Ben said, like it was amazing, not only from like, I feel like I grew as a writer a ton from when that band started to end it, but just also kind of like in the business realm, just having a better idea of the music industry, you know, and how things should work, or what your preferences are really. You know, so it was great to be able to take everything from the creative side and the business side and be able to apply it to what we're doing now.
Do you guys struggle with any sort of like genre identity crises when you're writing, where you feel like, oh, this needs to fit within a certain umbrella, or do you just sort of like put out what it is that you write because the thing that contextualizes it is that you wrote it? Do you know?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's times when there's certain writers that like that I feel like when they make records or do something, it's very like each, you know, it's very, very, very cohesive, and I've always felt like, for better or for worse, and I, you know, I've just got to embrace that part of myself too, but I feel like the things that I do hopefully just sound like me because I just write the songs. I have this certain maybe like identity within that, but like, you know, I've always kind of like, you know, I always have really respected Beck for being able to go like do sea change to like you know, to you know, Guiro, to like different, he's got so many different colors within what he does, and it still feels very much like him, even though it's like completely different. I feel like it's because the words, the lyrics, the melodies, the chords are all coming from him, so like that kind of ties the identity together. But I do struggle with that. There's times where I was like, man, I wish I not always wrote a certain kind of song, but like I wish that certain things would just always come out being like, oh yeah, this all sounds like a grouping together. But the reality is that sometimes it takes, you know, a year and a half or 2 years to get those 5 songs out of the 15 that you wrote to gel and be like, okay, this feels like a release, you know?
Yeah. It's odd too, because I think a lot of times artists feel pressure from external forces about like maybe what's expected in order to like market you or put you in a certain category, which like conversations that I've had with people that are on record labels, and that they're just kind of like, you can't try to anticipate that kind of stuff. You just have to do your thing and just keep doing it and do it better and better, which is nice because that takes that pressure off.
It totally does. I think one thing too is that like, it's amazing to me, I don't mean to talk too much, I'm talking too much. But yeah, like I think that it's amazing to me how much songs can be manipulated in terms of like,
production.
You know, production goes such a long way. Like, you know, songs are just like chords and lyrics and a vocal melody, you know what I mean? And when you really strip it all down, they can be produced a million different ways. And sometimes, like with this past EP, we brought in a group of songs and to work on, and Pat and Elena really helped us tie the songs together. You know, like I knew the songs felt strong, but I didn't know how to make them live in the same world, and Ben didn't either. We'd come up with like 4 or 5 different interpretations of the songs, trying to make them all fit together. And at the end of the day, it was like having this other trusted party come in and be like, hey, you guys should try this and this and this, and that'll make the songs feel like they exist in the same universe. So producers are great about doing that.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, like when we're writing on like in the most early stages, we try not to like shut something down before it's completed. Just like I try not to prejudge an idea. I think it's best just to kind of write and then let it reveal itself, and then oftentimes, at the very least, you did a creative exercise that you feel good about it. Maybe someone else could use the song, or maybe it could be used like for a sync, even if you don't feel like it fits for you. But I think it's dangerous to have an idea that you kind of like, but you don't feel like it's a stylistic fit, and then shut it down before it's even finished. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, don't judge it, just complete it or finish it out in whatever capacity, and then look at it and then make a decision. As far as like creative flow, I feel like that's kind of like the only way to do it.
Yeah.
But I know I've thought about that a lot, like what you're asking about, as far as like, does this work? Is there like a defined thing? And we kind of have that conversation, and we always go back to like, let's just write and not judge it, and we've kind of gone through phases where we did like 4 or 5 different demo versions of the same song presented different ways, and we've definitely learned like anything can be presented in any way, and so that kind of was like a weight off, I think, when we realized that it's like we don't have to we don't have to know from the get-go like, oh, this isn't the fit, like let's just write it if it feels good. So there's like a small fly that's like terrorizing.
I know.
I
wonder if it'll be in the...
I know, I'm wondering if it's going to show up, otherwise.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Okay. No, this
Haters
is
will
great.
say it's photoshopped in.
Haters.
Spent a lot of money on
Dare.
CGI to get this.
Don't you hate us? Okay, I have another question, but I kind of want to talk up more about the writing process, because recently I've been being encouraged just as a writer to take a stab at writing things for sync, and I'm like sort of approaching the way that world works, and I know that there are people that just like, they're a band and they have a great record and like something gets synced, and then there are people that like write for sync. And so I've like done a couple of co-writes where I try to do that and it feels really not so great. Like, do you guys ever sit down to write, and even if it's not for any particular outcome, do you ever sit down and start to write and think like, okay, let me anticipate what someone's gonna like? Do you know what I'm saying? Because I've felt myself do that times before, and it never feels as good as the songs that I call them like journal entry songs.
Right, like for you.
I do think there's a place, if it's possible, to utilize skills that you already have, because sometimes songs just come out and they happen to be like super catchy, poppy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
We've never any sync placements we've had in a new band have always been off of pre-recorded albums, like that. We've never
what you do
been tasked, like, we've never written with the idea of like a sync in mind. But and I could see how that would be tricky, but I also could see, I really like songwriters that write from other people's perspectives, and I could see it also, if you look at it, certainly being more like being pretty liberating. I don't know. I find that to be appealing if you can do that. Like the idea of almost like how actors like take on a different personality. Like the idea of writing like from the perspective of a different person, and
it's a cool exercise.
Yeah.
Totally.
If nothing else.
Yeah, I've never gotten to do it, but I think it's such a great way for artists to make income.
Hey, we could write for sync.
Yes.
We could write for Get Away Fly.
Yeah.
Fly wants credit too.
Yeah. Fly's like, I get 35%.
Okay, so there, I get 35%.
I was in the room.
He was in the room. See, no, this,
but yeah,
this naughty fly.
Totally would love to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
They're amazing songwriters. If you haven't listened to Airpark, by the way. So Tennis, the band Tennis, produced their record, or EP, because it's an EP, Songs of Airpark. So how did that come about? Were you guys just friends? And then sort of what was the relationship there, producer to artist, and how did that all work?
Do you want to...
We had I don't know
What?
There's like this smirk, and I'm like trying to unpack it or whatever. But
oh no,
we're both trying to figure out, like, we don't want to talk over each other,
yeah,
so we're both kind of like.
I feel like I talk a lot. So.
No, it was amazing. We did a handful of shows with them last year. 2017. And we loved it. They were wonderful to us. Their show was wonderful, and we're big fans of their music. And I think it was like a couple months later, we we're listening to the record, and we're like, man, this just sounds so good, and we're really into it, and we're, you know, like a lot of musicians do, we started like looking at the liner notes, and we're like, oh, they produced this, like they did it,
and engineered it themselves,
and engineered it, and we were just like, man.
Do they live here?
They live in Denver.
Yeah. Okay.
When they're actually they're on a sailboat a lot of the time too, so they're either like at sea or in Denver for the most part.
Cool.
It's really rad. Cool. But they so they had produced it. We didn't even realize it. We were just like big fans of this record, and so we were kind of talking. I was like, I wonder if they ever produce other artists. And so we sent over some demos we'd been working on and asked if they'd have interest in producing an EP for us, and they got back to us and said they're really into the demos, which was awesome. Very flattering, and they wanted to do it. So we drove out there and we recorded the whole EP in like 9 days. Like recorded and mixed it. They mixed it as well, and it was just such a great experience. We all stayed in the same place and had meals together, and we're both still very grateful for that. We look back on it, and there's not really much I would have changed about it, which is awesome.
That's
and you know,
so good.
That's great.
You stayed with them at their house?
Yeah, they have an amazing home studio, and we all stayed in their place, and it was just the most communal recording experience I've ever had. Like Ben was saying, so like, you know, we would have every meal together essentially, and the cool thing about that, it was so great because like sometimes, you know, when you're making a record, you show up to the studio in the morning or whenever you get there, you know, whenever the session starts. And then you record, and then everybody goes back to where they're staying or whatnot, and then you kind of wake up and do it again. But the fact that we were, you know, spending all day together, pretty much every day, things became very comfortable very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, versus like if you're trying to make a record together and you're not seeing each other all that much, it's harder to get to be totally honest and be able to really speak freely. Versus if you're spending all the time together, it just creates this dialogue that doesn't stop, which is. That's how I feel like that's how you write really great stuff. You know?
That's great. That's very like family vibe.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Super cool.
Because it's such an intimate space to be in with people, and it's like
it is, and it's the first time.
Yeah, I guess
wrong with them or right with them. You know, it's like
yeah. It was the first time we had with Airpark just kind of fully handed over the producer reins. Like everything we've done before has been like kind of co-produced, or you know, and this was the first time we were like, here are the songs, like in a pretty raw form, you know, and like what do you like, how do you think we should do this, what do you think? We really let them in a kind of a vulnerable sense as artists, and it was great, you know.
We were so excited to be
good
produced.
to us, and so
it's a big responsibility. Like,
it is
producing, you know, producing yourself especially too, because it's like you are, you know, you're basically like the gatekeeper on like, is this take good enough? And it's really hard to have that sort of perspective when it's yourself.
How did you track? Did you track live as a band?
We tracked. It was really interesting. We had never done this before. We tracked separately, but there weren't really designated roles, which was really cool. Like, I mean, I mostly played guitar. Michael mostly played guitar, and Steve Voss, their drummer, played drums. But when it came to like bass lines and keys work and lead guitar parts, we kind of would just like pass the instrument around.
Yeah. Okay. So it was the two of you, and then the guys you have playing, they didn't come. It was like your baby.
It was the two of us, and Pat and Elena and Steve basically played everything.
Okay. Cool.
So Steve Voss, their drummer, is the drummer on that record, and and then other than that, we just kind of, it was really fun. It'd be like, okay, we got to put bass down on this, and
who's got a good idea? Sometimes even like different people would make up a take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be like part of this, part of that, and you know,
Ben plays the bridge, Pat plays the verse.
That's cool.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was. I loved it. It was. I personally am one of those people that when I get in the studio, I can feel the weight of the pressure of the situation where it's like there's a time crunch situation. This is going to be forever in theory, like once it's released and all stuff, and it totally removed all that. It was just like, cool, I'll give it a shot, and then if it went well, it would be the thing, and if someone thought they could like expound upon the idea or had another idea altogether, then it would just get passed around, and it was a blast. It was really fun. It kind of felt like being like in high school again, just like goofing off, but it made for like good art, which was cool, you know. Like,
That's great.
I thought that, and that was their call as well. Like they suggested that, like, let's just pass the bass around because there wasn't a designated bass player.
They had no ego.
It was great.
Really
That's cool because one of my biggest complaints about being an adult is that you no longer just get to like hang out with your friends for days on end and have like nothing to do, which is why being in a band is cool because you pretty much have sleepovers every night, ride in a band every day, and like make songs together.
That's a really good point.
It's just a prolonged field trip.
Yes, it's a prolonged field trip because it's so hard. Like some of the friends I've made here as an adult are I consider some of my best friends, and we hardly see each other because we're all so busy. Yeah. So that's really cool to sort of like have a lock-in style.
And I really like going to another place to record outside of where like I'm living for whatever reason. I just think that it makes me think differently. Like we've only done it a couple times in terms of like recording, but like every time we go out somewhere to record outside of Nashville, just puts you in a different headspace.
For sure.
I want to keep that going.
Well, I think that no matter where you live, you're on your routine. You're in your lane and you're in your space and you sort of feel the pressures of your everyday life. Especially in Nashville, being a musician, everyone's doing it. So there's sort of like this like whirring outside of wherever you are because you know that people are creating great things all around you. And if you can just like take yourself out of that, I can imagine that being really great.
Yeah, I love it. And it's something about like when we were out there, I was allergic to something, I think, like mildly, and it like made the sound of my voice change, but in a way that I really liked.
Oh, find that.
Like,
what
like
is
towards
that?
The end of the,
what was that
like
thing?
I don't know.
We can figure it out.
It was like this weird like dust allergy thing, or like it was some sort of thing that was
like
out
a little
there.
like a little bottle of
but it, like towards the end of the recording process, like my voice was just getting really like I've never heard it sound like it. It wasn't like I was hoarse, but it was like I was like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to sing for much longer. You know, in terms of like on the sessions we kind of finished, but like you can hear on some of the songs like every time I try or Devotion like. My voice just has a different timbre.
But it's cool.
Yeah, I like it. I really it's kind of smokier.
Yeah.
Which I'm into smoky voice. I like voices that kind of sound like busted speakers.
Love it.
But for the most consistent voice, make sure to drink organic throat
coat. Oh, organic throat coat?
Every night. I was drinking it for the first time on tour. I was using throat coat every night.
He just learned about drinking tea before singing.
I know.
Boy.
Isn't that crazy?
But under a rock.
What did you normally drink before singing?
Just a bunch of water, and I would like warm up my voice on it. I just thought maybe like the tea thing was a myth. I don't know why.
Do you know what I've heard?
What?
This is my second time I'm name dropping Rachel Price of Lake Street Dive in a tea time because she's friends with Colin's family, and she was telling us that according to her voice coach, you actually, if you're not fully hydrated for your day 4 hours prior to singing, drinking water during singing won't make a difference. Isn't that interesting?
That's cool. That's actually
Which is so hard in the van because like I don't always want to have to do the pee stops, but I have to pee like every 5 minutes, and I'm trying to be hydrated because I want to sound good, and it's a whole thing. This is why we need a bus.
We just gotta get this.
That's why we need
Can
a
you
bus.
bus a bus?
Can someone give us a bus? Give us a bus.
Give us a bus.
A throat coat wrapped Prevo bus.
Throat coat. If you're
Absolutely, Traditional Medicinals. Really, we're looking at you, buds.
Yeah.
So here's a good question, I think. When you could do anything else in the world, why would you play music? Why do it? Why play music? What's the thing? Because as a musician, I know, as an independent artist as well, I know that it can be really, really challenging sometimes. So, I like that.
It can be really challenging. I know, we're just kind of staring off like, man, it is really hard.
maybe we'll
Why are we doing this? No, I think we both just have always felt some kind of, we've just always been so affected and moved by it as listeners. Like as, you know, every musician obviously starts out as like a fan first, you know, and remains one, like, you know, forever. And I just remember, you know, we were really fortunate to have parents that would take us to concerts and stuff. And I just remember being so moved by it in a way that nothing else had moved me. And it kind of was like, oh, okay, well... I just want to try to figure out how to do this.
I want to do that.
So, nothing for me, like, just in terms of, like, why I do it, you know, for sure is, like, I feel like nothing gives me more of a sense of purpose like it does when I'm writing songs. Like, I feel like, all right, this is, like, why I'm, like, this is my contribution. Like, I feel like it's the thing that I had to offer, you know? So, like, that's what I do. And I love playing live, too. That's just really fun for me. But I think, like, the thing that mainly, that has consistently kept me in it since the beginning, even despite you know, everything you have to go through in the music industry is like I just love writing songs. It just makes
Yeah.
me feel like I'm doing the right thing.
And there's always going to be something, no matter what
Yeah.
your job is, there's going to be an aspect of it that's work.
Totally. Yeah.
But, you know, there have been a couple times where I've had friends or family members say that, like, a song I wrote gave a voice to an emotion that they had that they didn't know how to express.
Mhm.
And I think
Whoa,
that's like
the
Yeah.
biggest
that's the
compliment
biggest
ever
compliment
get.
ever, because
Definitely.
that's what
Beautifully
that's
said.
your service as a writer.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's
totally.
really cool.
Totally is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
that's a
Yeah, I think you just summed it up. That
yeah.
was great.
Jeez.
I had another
Killed it.
question. Oh, I know what I want to ask.
Yes.
Who were some of y'all's favorite bands and artists growing up? Like the ones that you like geeked out on the most.
Oh man.
And don't be afraid to admit if it's like NSYNC or something. I don't judge.
Yeah. No. I mean, I will not pretend to
Oh yeah.
to.
I don't believe.
No
in
shade at
guilty pleasures.
NSYNC, by the way. I went to an NSYNC concert.
We saw
Same.
NSYNC too.
I saw
And
NSYNC.
Backstreet Boys.
And Backstreet.
Yes.
Saw Britney.
And Britney.
I saw Britney
On the Hit Me
too.
Baby tour. Hit Me Baby One More Time. Whatever.
I think I saw
or no,
that
wait.
tour.
Oops, I Did It Again. Is that the same song? Oops.
No, it's
No, that's
different.
different album.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Brit.
Sorry,
God
Brittany.
love her. Cisco opened up for Britney when I saw
Yes,
her.
we saw that tour.
During like
You
thong
did-
songs.
yes!
He peaked them.
And we're
yeah.
like children. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, because girls came out in thongs.
Oh,
I'll
man.
never
It
forget.
happened.
Wow.
Okay, but back to
Saw
the
too much
question.
too soon.
Way too soon.
Talk about TRL, y'all.
TRL, real life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
think the big moment for us growing up as kids is that we went and saw the Chili Peppers in 2000. I think it was actually year 2000. It was on the
was on the
Californication.
Californication
Maybe
tour.
2001.
And it was the Foo Fighters were opening for him, which is
Nice.
pretty wild
Yeah.
to think about.
That is wild.
But our dad took us, which was really sweet of him. I don't know if he knew what he was getting into when we got there. It was like, it was like
What a blast.
it was like it was like a rock show in a traditional sense, and the things that you would expect to be there and stuff. But yeah, it was at the time, like I was playing guitar, and John Frusciante was like
He's the guy.
my
He's
guy.
the guy.
Yeah, he's the
He is
guy.
the guy.
And
I love that dude.
he is the guy. He's still the guy.
I don't know him, but he's.
Yeah, you know him. You know him.
John
Came off like
Hang.
Yeah, my
Oh,
guy.
yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, and Michael had gotten into bass at that time, and obviously when you're 11 years old, and I think they came out and opened that song
All Around the World.
All Around the
It's got this,
World.
like,
Yes.
spotlight
As soon as I
over
saw
him,
that, it's like I want to do this. I want
Yeah,
to do
it
this
was
forever.
like,
It's the
that
same
was
kind of thing
it.
you're talking
I love
about.
it.
Yeah, I
So-
think actually I remember after that
Yeah.
we I think you went to Guitar Center and bought there's a Flea instructional that was
Yeah.
River Phoenix was like the
The
host of it, and he would interview Flea.
Oh, like a video?
Yeah,
it's like a video, and it's like
It's just
a-
him playing bass and then Chad Smith on the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then
And-
it'll just cut back and forth between them jamming, and then
Mm-hmm.
Flea and River Phoenix
Talking about just
talking about
music.
stuff
and,
what inspires
that's
you, and then
cool.
Flea gets really out there,
Stoked.
and it's awesome. I don't even know if it's on VHS, so I
Yeah.
probably can't even play it anymore.
that band was huge for me when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the concert
fifth or
where
sixth grade.
yeah.
But and then from there, it's so funny how your musical journey just ebbs and flows and changes. I got really into I mean, I think you did too. I think maybe I got a little further into it, but I was really into hardcore for a while. There was a big post-hardcore and hardcore scene in
Yeah.
Louisiana when I was growing up. Those were the big bands in town.
Yeah.
There was
The bands that kind of were out and doing it.
got really into prog,
Mhm.
more like experimental rock, like Mars Volta. We got really into that band. I remember late high school, and then college. Was Radiohead and things like that. And
Yeah.
it's funny. It's amazing. I'm sure if you feel the same. We kind of start and you kind of see how one band can kind of be a gateway to another band and another band, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden here we are.
And it's interesting to
something.
think about your the music that you create and how that compares to some of your major influences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
one of my
Absolutely.
major influences, and Natalie too, is Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
totally.
yeah.
I'm making pop music. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it finds a way to. I feel like all genres find a way to cross pollinate, whether
Mhm.
it's conscious or subconscious.
Totally.
It all rolls into the next. So
Yeah. Well, so what's next for Airpark? What you guys got coming up?
we're playing Bonnaroo, which will be fun.
What?
Yeah.
You guys are
it's-
playing Bonnaroo?
We're playing. Yeah, it should be really fun.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that'll.
That's amazing.
That's a first for us.
Touring throughout the summer and then into the fall.
Yeah.
We're just trying to write a ton right now. We've
Yeah.
been kind of pushing this EP like crazy.
We very much still are, but
yeah.
we're also we're trying to strike a balance of writing and touring and having the balance right is ideal.
Yeah,
So we're trying
totally.
Gotta have songs to fuel everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
thanks for watching Tea Time. Thanks to The Fly for being our friend. Thanks to Airpark.
bye.
He finally left.